Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show on this Thursday, March 16th, 2023. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad to have you guys here. Credit Suisse, the bank, it's just got a bailout from the Swiss National Bank of $54 billion. That's 50 billion francs. And they've offered to repurchase debt this whole thing, and they've basically, well, we can see a trend developing here, guys. They're not going to let the too big to fail, systematically large banks, the ones that would really affect the financial system in a very negative way, they're not going to let them fail. The smaller banks, they're letting them fail, but they're stepping in to backstop the creditors of the smaller banks. At least the creditors that they choose to backstop. Anyway, or ones that are less than $250,000 on deposit, so they're insured by the FDIC. So, but now the Fed's heading into a crucial juncture here. What do they do? Do they continue to do what created this problem in the first place by raising interest rates? And I told you guys they were going to break it, the system. They're going to break it. Well, I'll just tell you what my opinion is, but I'm asking the question right now. Will they continue to push the accelerator down and raise interest rates and do quantitative tightening with what's happening around them? Or will they back off? Because this is what caused the problem. I think they're going to continue. I think they're going to raise another 25 basis points. That's what I think they're going to do. You know, because they're not going to stop until something really breaks hard. You know, and in this so-called fight against inflation, which it ain't helping. Inflation is, we've only seen a very, very tiny little bit of disinflation so far from all that they've done, and they've cracked the system. They're cracking the banking system. They're going to put us into a tremendous recession, and what's the gain in all this? Is a drop of maybe 1% in the inflation rate. Maybe a drop from 8.5 to 7.5, something like, barely scratching the surface of inflation. And this should be obvious anyway, because we look back to Paul Volcker era. Paul Volcker, you know, he just didn't make one attempt at killing inflation, and he had to raise interest rates to 20%. They're not even at 5%, and the system's breaking. And this inflation has as much energy as the inflation back that Paul Volcker had to work with. So they're much too little, they're doing much too late anyway, and at the expense of breaking the system. None of it makes any sense in that context. But when you take a look at the other context, the context of consolidating of power, take a look at that context. Consolidating power with the biggest banks and getting rid of all these little credit unions and all these little small banking institutions that are sharing the wealth. It's kind of like a bunch of bank robbers, you know? Yeah, bank robbers. Say you got a dozen of these guys, and they've all just robbed the bank, and they robbed $1 million, you know? And they're going to get so much a piece. They figured it all out, how much they're going to get a piece. And then what they do is they start eliminating one another so that they can have a bigger share of the robbery. This is what they're all a bunch like, you know. They're consolidating the banking. And you know who the big fish is? The biggest one of these, the kingpin, the big boss. You know, the Al Capone of banking. is the Federal Reserve. That's the kingpin. That's the big one. And these other systemically too big to fail banks, ultimately they surround. They're in a circle around the Federal Reserve. You know, and that's the inner circle. And then there's the outer circle, which is all these smaller banks that are trying to feed, on the carcass. You know what I mean? Like a bunch of jackals or like a bunch of hyenas. And so what's happening is now they're cannibalizing each other. And they're getting so that you ever heard the old saying, you can't suck blood out of a turnip? Well, we're the turnip. There's nothing left in us. They've practically sucked us all dry. So now they're going to suck each other dry. It's just, why do we have to have, is this the best we can do? I'm serious, guys. Is this the best we can do to run a system? Is have a bunch of people in there who are only out for their own self-interest, and they don't really care about the people or how much suffering they put the people through, because that's what's happening. They're going to continue this so-called fight against inflation to look good. I mean, it's good PR, right? And meanwhile, there's no chance in hell they're going to be able to beat inflation. They'd have to do what Paul Volcker did. Right now, it would take 25% interest rate probably to knock inflation out. And they're not even at, what are they, 5? Not even 5%. They ain't gonna cut it. And then a 25 basis point hike, it's just gonna make more banks fail and put us into a deep, dark recession like we've never seen before. And that's what's directly ahead of us. And the people are getting to the point now where they're cutting back on law enforcement and everything else, and they're brazen. They're coming right out in the street now. They need money. And they're going to get it someplace, and they're just going to do whatever they have to do to survive, to feed their families. People are, and they're absolutely getting desperate, and they're going to get more desperate as this economy rolls down the toilet. And crime is going to go like ballistic once they figure out that the police are not doing much to stop them. And I mean, they can just go out and basically pillage. And this is the ordinary people on the street. But they're not worried about that, these bankers and stuff, because they're just riding around in their brand new Cadillac, or whatever the most expensive car that they can have is, and their butt doesn't even touch the ground. And what I mean by that is they got such cushy suspension in those vehicles that they go over the potholes and they don't even feel them. But by gosh, we feel them, because our old clunkers haven't even got any springs left in them anymore, because we can't afford it. Why does it always work out this way? No matter what kind of government mankind gets in there, they always end up getting corrupt in the end and just completely robbing from the people. It's the reverse of Robin Hood. You remember Robin Hood, he Sherwood Forest and all that, he used to rob from the rich to give to the poor? No, they rob from the poor to give to the rich. And they've set it up that way. So you can't win in the system anymore. It's like killing the goose that laid the golden egg, guys, honest to gosh, because if you have a vibrant middle class and you have a wealth that's distributed through society evenly, and everybody's more happy. You think these rich people are happy, getting fatter and fatter all the time, and more rich all the time in an unsecure world? They're not happy. And the people out there, they're not happy either, having to struggle to survive. Nobody's happy in the way the system's being run like this. So, to straighten it out and go back to hard money again and have a vibrant middle class, that's when happiness spreads around. And happiness is a great thing. Anyway, getting on. Let's take a look at silver today. I ran it a little bit here, but 21.72. It's down 6 cents on silver today. So they think all the crisis is over, and everything's going back down to normal, back down to push silver and gold back down again, sort of deal. There's gold. Gold is 19.23. It's up $4.60. Taking a look at crypto today. Crypto's doing pretty well. Bitcoin's at 24,874, and we're looking at Ethereum at 1659. So we did see a little up in this crisis. You can see this is a tell, though. It tells you where everybody's going to run. And that's what I've been telling you all along. When they get fear and the fear trade comes into all this, there's no end to how high we can see this stuff go. Inflation's the next thing down the pike that's going to bring the fear in. Because they're not going to be able to control inflation. They can't do what Paul Volcker did. It takes and it took him more than one try. Yeah, he did it, but he had to make the price on money up to 20%. So you're going to make 20% profit just holding your money every year. That was higher than the rate of inflation. So that's what killed inflation. People said, well, I'm not going to spend my money. If I'm going to hold it, I'm going to get 20% on it. And I'm only inflation is lower than that. Well, right now it's not that way. You hold your money. 5% is the top of the line right now, and you hold your money, and inflation's going to nibble away almost double that or more. So this ain't going to do it. That's why I'm telling you guys it ain't going to do it, because it's not. Inflation is higher than the rate of return on your investment over a year of holding your money, and they got to get that reversed. They got to get it so that you're going to make more money keeping your money than you are with inflation, and they're not even close yet. They got to make it a little bit further. They got to go further with it too, so that you're probably going to make an extra 10% by holding your money rather than spending it. So right now, probably figure the real rate of inflation is probably double what they're saying, probably around 16% right now. And so you get 10% more than that. So 26% right now would do a Paul Volcker. You need 26%. And they're at less than 5, or around 5. So they'd have to raise like 4 basis points, 4 whole percentage points each Fed meeting. And they have to do that for like 3 or 4 meetings from now. And then they could do it. But their economy would be flat. Everything would be flat if they did that. They can't do that. And how would they pay the debt? How would they service their own debt if they get... I mean, you can see it. None of it makes any sense. And it ain't going to happen. Anyway, Dow Jones Industrial Average. That's basically what I'm saying. In theory, they could kill inflation. But I'm saying it would take 26% interest rate. So that people that held their money, the banks would probably be paying you 15% per year on your money. Just the banks for a savings account if they raised it that high, 26%. They ain't going to do that. They can't, possibly. But that's what it would take right now to actually kill inflation and kill it fast. The national debt, though, way over $30 trillion. They can't possibly do that. Imagine. Over 25% interest on money, the price of money. And the national debt, they would be paying 25% of $32 trillion. That would be how quick the debt would go up if they did that. The compounding interest on that, they can't. In fact, even what they're doing right now, is going to have a very adverse effect upon the debt, because they're starting to actually have to pay interest, because that free money, when they all those years there they were going with 0% interest rates, that means that how much we were paying on the national debt too was 0% practically, and that's why we could grow the debt up as big as we and carry all that. It's like your guys' credit cards, right? Say they gave you $1 million credit card limit at 0% interest rate. You could pay off. You could keep paying your credit card even on your meager wage, right? If it was 0% interest on it, they weren't charging you any interest, and they didn't make any demands on how quick you paid it back. You could owe $1 million. You could pay on that. But as soon as they start raising the interest rates, even the 1%, and you got to pay on that $1 million outstanding credit, suddenly you're getting docked with interest payments. And this is the same thing on the national debt. That's why they can't raise interest rates too high, because they can't service the debt. So they're absolutely trapped. Inflation's going to continue to rise. It's just a matter of speed. And the more they do this quantitative tightening, the more breakdown they have of systemic failures within the system, and they have to bail it in, or bail it out. I should say not bail it in, bail it out. The faster they're going to make this inflation run away. And the more businesses close, because maybe they're connected to a bank that goes down or whatever, and the people just, in the end, they just close up their business and stuff. That's less tax revenue. In the end, it's not just consolidation of the banks, they're consolidating everything. Mom and pop grocery store, been there for years, close up. Now it's just Walmart. That's consolidation. Once they get total consolidation, then they can set prices. They got a monopoly on everything. It's government gone amok. And in the end, it ceases to function. So it's because they go too far in the end. They just keep pushing. Anyway, taking a look here at the S&P 500, 3,920. It's up 28 points on the day. So the Dow is up 117, and the S&P 500 is up 28 points. And oil is down $1.71 at 65.70. Well, you got some cheap oil, and the price at the pump should come down a little bit now. Bonds and rates today. We're looking at falling yields on the long end. 10-year fell 6.4 basis points at 3.43. And the 30 years at 3.6, and it's fell 7.3 basis points. Dollar index today is at 104.41, and she's going along sideways. Okay, guys, stay tuned. There's a lot more coming. We're just getting into the start, the opening salvo of what could take down the entire financial system, cause systemic failure, even though they don't want it to. They're just barely managing to hold this thing together right now, and they're not going to be able to hold it together. Something big and nasty is coming. Bigger and nastier than what's just happened, which was what just happened, they were able to manage it just barely. What's coming, I don't think they're going to be able to manage it properly. So we're just beginning. We're just in the first inning, guys. Catch you guys in the next show. Bye-bye.